Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to our Midwest meeting. My name is Emma Reuter, and I work with the LaRouche organization in Michigan. I want to start with a quote from Lyndon LaRouche's book, The Science of Christian Economy, which he wrote while he was in prison. Just give me a second, I'll share my screen here. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Here we go. There's actually a group of us which are reading this book, as well as LaRouche's There Is No Limits to Growth book, and many other important pieces from important minds in history. We're working through it with a growing number of young people throughout the country, so it's pretty exciting. So let me start with this. Okay. So LaRouche says, quote, Plato's Parmenides dialogue confronts us with a threefold paradox. The elaboration of the dialogue confronts us with a problem in knowledge, a paradox defined in formal, deductive terms of reference. The dialogue taken as a whole defines an ontological paradox. Both facts, taken together, define a single paradox, subsuming both others. A paradox respecting man's possibility of effecting a truthful, intelligible representation of the elementary nature of universal and subsumed states of being. Plato includes in that dialogue only one explicit clue to the required solution, that the formal argument has ignored the fact that change is an elementary condition subsumed by being. The significance of that reference to change as a crucial feature of the dialogue as a whole is not comprehended by most commentators. From the standpoint of physical economy, for example, the solution is derived more or less directly. Now I want to go back up to the second paragraph and read this footnote after being. So the footnote is, ultimately, being is a quality which resides in the good, not the becoming. The good is the changeless being of universal change, the former one, the latter the generation of the manifoldness of the universe. Sorry, the former one, the latter becoming the generation of the manifoldness of the universe. Being is thus the residence of the highest, which is higher than the transfinite ordering of change. The constant good is this constant cause of change. Matter is thus generated or created continuously by the good, being. So, stop share. Okay. So I get that that's a little bit difficult. I'm not going to be able to explain everything that he's talking about here. But I wanted to bring that up because I think what he's getting at is that the good subsumes or perhaps even directs the functionality of the universe. So what LaRouche is describing is the universe, the same one that you and I and human beings in general are a part of, not the fictional universe of money rules or however else you want to describe what we live in today. So if you're not familiar with LaRouche, he made a fundamental discovery in the science of economy, which was informed by his understanding of the nature of the universe. And that in order for human society to function, it must conduct itself in accordance with that nature or principle of the universe, the good. And his metric for defining or determining whether a policy or a society is in accordance with the good is whether or not it is increasing its potential population density. So you need to ask, is there an increased capability to support more people at a higher standard of living, at a higher level of productivity? Is that the effect of whatever policy is being discussed or implemented? Now, today, in the created system we live in, it is no question antithetical to that active principle of the good. In fact, the current policy of bank bailouts leading to hyperinflation right now, the attempt to move to a carbon zero economy through the Green New Deal, the failure to provide basic infrastructure to develop adequate health systems, the shutdown of food production, the disinvestment in infrastructure more generally, perpetual warfare, and now, the persistence in driving towards war against Russia or China, which have nuclear consequences or nuclear implications. All of those things lead to a drastic lowering of the potential population density. They actually destroy our ability to provide for the livelihoods of people, to support people. So much like a car or a machine of any kind, if your parts are not in alignment, you get friction, things begin to degrade, and then it eventually breaks down. And so goes for human societies. And this would happen no matter what form of government you ascribe to, whether it's, the American system, the Chinese system, the Indian system, whatever it is. If it is not in alignment with the good, it will fail. But the good, though it is a constant, it's also the cause of constant change. So mankind cannot merely, settle upon some concept of the good that they have and just remain there. We too always must be changing, advancing through the good. So hopefully you're stuck with me with that. But I wanted to start with this because I think that mankind is good and that human beings by nature are good. So the potential for that not only exists, but I think, as Jose will talk a little bit more about, it's actually becoming ever more prevalent in the world today. And that's in some degree because of the work of Lyndon LaRouche and his movement over many decades. And I'd say that it is that presence of the good, of the alternative to the hell that we've all been living in, has driven the so-called powers that be to a total point of desperation to destroy it in order to maintain whatever semblance of control they think they have through their British imperial system, or their laughable rules-based order, as they call it. And I think, this also goes for largely young people, but a lot of baby boomers as well. People think that they're doing the good or doing a good thing by sacrificing all to the health of the environment. But the Green New Deal, the Great Reset, these things are not good. And it's actually one of the advantages that we have to defeat not just that singular policy, but the entire system with which it is in accordance. So I think I might actually just leave it at that. There are obviously, a lot of developments around the world. People are finally discussing the fact that we've been in a hyperinflationary bank bailout for now 12 years. They're finally starting to realize what LaRouche has been warning for even longer than 12 years. We're at a point where the rate of money creation has increased by 75% year over year over the last, I say, 2 or 3 years. So you can keep, pumping this system full of money for a long time, but at a certain point, it's going to manifest in hyperinflation, and that will have the biggest effects on obviously the poor population, but very quickly to the rest of the world and the rest of the population. Same goes same goes for the attempts at pitting the United States against Russia or China. You can only poke for so long before you get to the point where you're not just fighting a conventional war anymore, but you're talking about nuclear powers, which with the drop of, or the perceived drop of one nuclear bomb could lead to the obliteration of the entire human species. So we're at a point where everything is sort of escalating and increasing its rate of breakdown. But at the same time, it's kind of ironic, well, not ironic, but it's kind of funny that because you live in a created system, a man-made system, all you really need to do in a certain sense to avoid hell on earth is a shift in thought. Since human society is a product of man's mind. So that shift in thinking has been facilitated for a lot of people through our organization. In fact, we've held dozens, probably hundreds of international conferences discussing Lyndon LaRouche's principles of economy, his proposals for global economic development as the pathway towards peace in the world, but also just as a scientific truth and necessity for human progress. So our interventions over the years, I think, have put the human species on a better foot to stand on now, where when confronted with the moment that we see in front of us right now, where things are accelerating in a downward spiral, that they're more equipped to actually think about the solution. And one of the places that has come forward has been through China's initiation of the Belt and Road Initiative, which is actually a policy thought first by LaRouche and his wife with the World Land Bridge. And that option for real economic development and to pull people out of poverty and actually give them more control over the fate of their own lives or their future is being given to them through this policy. So that has the potential to completely transform the world. And that's a very scary thing for the Queen of England, Prince Charles, and other associates down under, you could say. So I think I'll leave it at that, and we can discuss any of those elements in the question and answer. But I think Jose will give us a bit more of a peek into the good that exists as a potential. So take it away, Jose.
Okay, hi. So I can be heard properly. I'm good. Yep, great, perfect. Yeah, hi. So my name is Jose Vega. I'm here in New York City, specifically in the Bronx. I've been doing a lot of work down in Central America remotely. I don't mean I'm there physically. I'm like I said, I'm here in the comfort and safety of my neighborhood. In order for me to help you understand what I've been doing, I think you do require a little bit of a history lesson, which will be done in two parts. I'll give you a brief one now, and then I'll give you something a little more in depth towards the end of my presentation. And I promise you by the end, you will understand just a little bit more what geopolitics means to the oligarchy and to the British and to those who have no regard for human life. So to begin with, and for total transparency, I myself am Salvadorian. Both of my parents were refugees from the Salvadorian Civil War. You can watch Oliver Stone's Salvador movie. You can watch the Innocent Voices movie on the war. And what was significant about this war is that it lasted 10 years. And it was instituted by America really on both sides, but publicly on the right-wing side. America was funding paramilitary death squads in El Salvador to wipe out the population. There was a very famous Archbishop of El Salvador who was killed the same day he made a plea for peace. I believe his words were, "We're all brothers, you know, we're all Salvadorians, we're all united under this one flag." And this, these lines of left and right that divide us are only causing us more bloodshed. We need to put down our arms, all of us, and realize we're one humanity, one country. And then a couple hours later, he's dead while giving his the sermon. And so he would later be sainthooded, and it was a big controversial thing as to whether or not he should be sainthooded and who actually killed him, which later turned out to be these American-funded right-wing militia death squads that killed him, that hired the person to kill him. So that's El Salvador for you in 1980 to 1990. That's the Salvadorian Civil War. And before that, the tensions between El Salvador and its neighboring country, Honduras, were already high. In 1970, you had a problem where people in El Salvador looking for employment went to Honduras, started immigrating to Honduras, looking for employment. And they were getting employment from these banana republics, where these banana companies would go in and set up shop and would hire anybody for slave wage labor, basically. And so the Salvadorians weren't happy about this, so they decided to wage war with Honduras. And this is now known as the Soccer Wars, or the 100 Hours War. And it's called the Soccer Wars because it coincides with a soccer game that was going on too. And, you know, Salvador versus Honduras, tensions were really high that day. There's a whole thing on that, but it lasted 100 hours. So you have all of Central America, really, but I'm talking about these two countries, but all of Central and South America is like a big playground for these oligarchs, for these banana republics, and for the British to really just do whatever they want. They pass any policy they want, they do whatever they want, they control and buy whoever they want. So really, it's just total anarchy going on down in Central South America. People are dying and there is no regard for human life. And we'll go more in depth into that a little bit later. Now let's fast forward to 2017 here. El Salvador is messed up. Honduras is messed up. It's corrupt. The gangs really run the town, and then out comes this new, young, fresh face called Nayib Bukele and his New Ideas Party. and he inspires the population, and they vote him in first. And then 2 years later, they vote in the New Ideas Party to take over the Legislative Assembly. So now you have a situation where Bukele, the president of El Salvador, and his party, the New Ideas Party, now control all of El Salvador. And just so you have an idea, 93% of El Salvador's population completely supports the new administration. And with good reason. They've backed up what they've claimed to do. They said they were going to start new projects, new infrastructures. They built a lot of highways. They built the biggest hospital in all of Latin America, which I did look up and verify. I thought that was just propaganda. No, they were serious about that. And they did that because of COVID. So, you have a president coming in late 2018 on the eve of the COVID pandemic, who also sat down with President Trump after Trump had called El Salvador a shithole, which was an act of nonviolence. I don't know. An act of mercy, maybe. I don't know. But they sat down. Suddenly, Trump had nothing to say about El Salvador anymore. Just so you know, Biden Bukele went to DC on an impromptu trip, hoping to speak with Biden, and Biden said no because Bukele has no respect for the law. So we can't meet and sit with you. Anyway, so Bukele's doing all these great infrastructure projects, such as building highways, hospitals, and he closed down 4 prisons in El Salvador and is replacing them with cultural and educational institutes. Now, remember, I did say that this place before that was ruled by gangs, and that really the law of the land was whatever the gang said, and the politicians really didn't do anything. So what is it that happened that El Salvador is doing that people are optimistic and that the homicide rates have gone down? Whenever they have a day with no homicides, they celebrate that on Twitter, which is like a big deal to have a day where nobody dies. I mean, they do that still in places like Chicago and even here in New York City, where we average 1 death a day. Over there, they try to 1 homicide a day. Over there, zero homicides a day is a great thing for them. So what is going on here? Another thing is their relationship with China. Really, since the pandemic started, El Salvador has only strengthened their relationships with China. When the vaccine started coming into production, China made a deal with El Salvador, where the Chinese gave, I believe, 2 million vaccines to the Salvadorians. And this happened in April of 2021. So this was like a few months after the vaccines had just come out. And these were the Sinovac vaccines. So the Salvadorians now have 2 million doses of vaccines, and they got to work right away. They started vaccinating 50,000 people a day. They were just going right at it. They were not wasting any time at all. So I'm painting this picture because in this area of the world where it's just really bad, there really is no government. People are fending for themselves. People have a survivalist attitude. You have a country that has decided to not follow in that anymore, that has completely rebelled against that. And so now other countries see it as another way. Things don't have to be the way they are anymore. And just personal anecdote, I'm taking my grandfather to the hospital in a taxi cab, nothing too serious, just chemo, he was okay. And on the radio, the taxi driver is Dominican, and on the radio, you hear the Dominican radio guy talking about El Salvador. And he's saying the Dominican Republic could learn a lesson or two from what's going on in El Salvador. So, you have all these other countries in the Caribbean, South, Central America, going on about, wait a minute, this guy has proven that poverty and desperation is a choice. It's not the way things are. It's a choice. We can choose not to be this way. So you have El Salvador. The neighboring country, Honduras, which we talked about earlier, where there's a big conflict between these two countries, where they fought a war 50 years ago at this point. Tensions are still around. 7 mayors in Honduras out of 298 municipalities, 7 of them get together, and they're from different parties. Some of them are really left-leaning, some of them are center-right, whatever those things mean, and some of them are just whatever. So these guys are like a wide array of different parties, and they all come together and they make a video on social media asking President Bukele for vaccines. Now, this was a big deal because they were harassed, not just by their central government, but by some of their people, definitely by American officials, because America does not like El Salvador right now, and other people too, other diplomats. Because of what I said before, these two countries, they hated each other, and but they withstood the attacks. They said, no, our people are dying. El Salvador's got vaccines. We have nothing to lose unless we ask for vaccines. So 9 days later, Bukele sends an official letter saying, we'd like to meet with you 7 mayors over here in El Salvador. We'd like to have breakfast and lunch with you, and we'd like to discuss how to get you vaccines. Boom. Everything blows up right there. The news goes crazy. El Salvador is meeting with these Honduran mayors. And just to really highlight why that's such a big deal, it would be as if Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York City, asked Putin for vaccines rather than Joe Biden. So everybody would be like, whoa, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you go to your own government right now? Anyway, so Bukele sits down with these guys. They all shake hands. They take nice press pictures. And the deal they come up with is, hey, El Salvador is going to give you 34,000 vaccines to split amongst your municipalities. That's 34,000 more vaccines than the central government of Honduras gave these mayors. So they're ecstatic, they're happy, they come back. And then the central government is not happy at all. They're not reacting well. The Honduran central government is not happy, but you have these wonderful images of when the trucks are pulling into Honduras. You see the Honduran people with flags stitched together of the Honduran flag and the Salvadoran flag, all saying, yay, we love Bukele, may there be coexistence and peace between our two countries, this is great. And I think the way President Bukele said it was, we are planting the seeds today for trees whose shade we don't know who will benefit, but we know they'll benefit someone. So that act alone right there was completely revolutionary, because it just said, we're not playing this geopolitical game anymore. We know we've had tensions and conflicts before, but we're going to supersede that now because people are dying. And that is one of the principles of the Committee for the Coincidence of Opposites, to overcome our differences and any petty grievances of our past in favor of saving humanity and moving humanity forward. So that's where we are now with Honduras and El Salvador. These two former hating countries now love each other, or at least the people and the government of El Salvador love each other. The Honduran central government, not so much. They're not happy, but it is. That's another story for another day. Now, where do I come in? What do? I know I just gave this beautiful story. I don't, all I did was I contacted these 7 mayors, and I got an interview with 2 of them. And I spoke to Amable. He's one of the mayors in Honduras. And I spoke to another guy named David Castro. These 2 are the head guys who really organized the other 6 mayors. So I spoke to them, and there are interviews you can see on the Schiller Institute. One of them is up. The other one will be coming up within the next 2 days, both dubbed in English and in Spanish too, if you speak Spanish, or if you have people who speak Spanish who need the Spanish one. So I interviewed them, and I briefed them on the Committee for the Coincidence of Opposites. They loved it. And those 7 mayors today turned to 128. Today, there was a meeting where there were over 100 municipalities represented, I think 121. And all these municipalities signed on to their declaration. They started something called Mayors Without Borders. And so, because all these mayors come from different parts of the country. They're all widespread, wide factions, completely different parties in every way, and they're all forming one joint committee to demand we need vaccines, and we need them from the world, and whoever will give it to us, we will kindly, graciously accept them. So that's what happened today, and we were asked to say a little something. And Ms. Khadija Lang, Dr. Khadija Lang got on and spoke, which I had no idea she spoke Spanish until today. And so she gave a greeting at the very beginning of the conference, where she spoke about the importance of the committee, unity and cooperation, and how we are working together and how we can work together, not just for now, but for the future as well. So that's the motion that's been going on right now in these two countries. And we are just going to continue moving forward with that cooperation. Now, I did promise you I would go in depth in the history as to why these countries were the way they are and how they've broken out of it. So now I'm going to switch over here to my computer. So let's see if I can do this seamlessly. Okay. Yes. Just. Okay.
Very good.
There we go.
Wait. Okay, so I figured I'd just leave on my phone and get on my computer here, because I'm going to now show you my screen here. Yeah, okay, so this article here, I hope you guys can see this, the Haig-Kissinger depopulation policy, right? That's what people see here?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So this was done in 1981, and what this report is going to tell you is it's going to give you an explanation. You should read the whole thing. I'm just going to read you some quotes here from it. So first it starts out, investigations by EIR have uncovered a planning apparatus operating outside the control of the White House, whose sole purpose is to reduce the world's population by 2 billion people through war, famine, disease, and any other means necessary. Now check this out. This apparatus, which includes various levels of the government, is determining U.S. foreign policy in every political hotspot: El Salvador, the so-called Arc of Crisis in the Persian Gulf, Latin America, Southeast Asia, and in Africa. The goal of U.S. foreign policy is population reduction. So now I'm going to skip a little bit down here. Now, this group drafted the Carter administration's Global 2000 document, now, which calls for global population reduction. And the same apparatus is conducting the civil war in El Salvador as a conscious depopulation project. So that civil war that I was talking to you guys about, which my father and mother were products of, which my father did fight in that war. And don't tell anyone in Central America this, but my father was on the right-wing side against his will. He was only 14 years old. The right-wing, our American-backed military used children. So my father was 14 years old when he went in, and he went in because they took his brother, my uncle, forcefully. So he volunteered as a way to be with him and protect them. So anyway, now check out this quote here. There is a single theme behind all our work. We must reduce population levels, said Thomas Ferguson, the Latin American case officer for the State Department's Office of Population Affairs. Either they, governments, do it our way through nice, clean methods, or they will get the kind of mess that we have in El Salvador, or in Iran, or in Beirut. Population is a political problem. Once population is out of control, it requires authoritarian government, even fascism, to reduce it. The professionals, said Ferguson, aren't interested in lowering population for humanitarian reasons. That sounds nice. We look at resources and environmental constraints. We look at our strategic needs, and we say that this country must lower its population, or else we will have trouble. So steps are taken. El Salvador is an example where our failure to lower population by simple means has created the basis for a national security crisis. The government of El Salvador failed to use our programs to lower their population. Now they get a civil war because of it. There will be dislocation and food shortages. they still have too many people there. I'm going to read that one sentence again, which says, the government of El Salvador failed to use our programs to lower their population. Now they get a civil war because of it. You have no choice, is what America is telling to these countries. Either you follow our policies to kill your people off, or we'll do it for you. So you better pick your poison. And there is more, actually. I think there's one more. Here we go. Yeah. So the OPA official added, the quickest way to reduce population is through famine, like in Africa, or through disease, like the Black Death, all of which might occur in El Salvador. And then, one more thing here. We are letting people breed like flies without allowing for natural causes to keep population down. We raised the birth survival rates, extended lifespans by lowering death rates, and did nothing about lowering birth rates. That policy is finished. We are saying with Global 2000 and in real policy that you must lower population rates. Population reduction and control is now our primary policy objective. Then you can have some development. So this is what El Salvador has decided to fight back against, whether they know it or not. And this is what they're doing. And this is why they've been marked for overthrow. People like Blinken, who have come out against Bukele, the whole Congress threatening sanctions against El Salvador, because of what they're doing, really. I mean, the official reason is because El Salvador voted out corrupt judges once they had control of the legislative assembly. And so they threatened sanctions against El Salvador, saying, if you don't reinstate these judges again, we're just going to sanction you to hell and back. And they held their ground and they didn't return those judges. I don't know what happened as of now. I don't think they have passed any sanctions, but my conclusion is simple. This is what America and the British have done to Central and South American countries. And now there is a real pushback against it. There is real potential for real development, for real optimism right now. And El Salvador has proved that. They are the wave of the present. But our role here needs to push them into the future, to think even further ahead. And everybody here has the ability and potential to do that.